Hopefully you've clicked on this because you're interested in hearing about an alternative to the full battery power that Nissan can bring out. I mean, Nissan has done the Leaf. It's the longest serving electric car in the market, but this is the Qashqai. This is the product that started the small SUV off. Now, I hate to use the word SUV because I've always called this a crossover, because in actual fact they're more like a hatchback car. It's been kind of lifted off the ground and made it look a little bit different, with a higher seating position. That's what people think is an SUV, when of course us car people really know that an SUV is not that. An SUV is a big four-wheel drive car that can actually go off-road. This could go into a field maybe, but it's not going to get itself out of it. But it's how it's powered that I'm more concerned about. This is a very odd setup that somehow manages to work really well. So Nissan has decided to make this a sort of a generator platform. They've put a petrol engine in, for sure, it's there, but it's not connected to the drivetrain. That's connected to a battery that's connected to the drivetrain. So it runs as a sort of a generator. The idea is that the petrol engine never drives the wheels. It just charges the battery. The battery has a very short range, about 1 or 2 kilometers, and that's kind of it. So it runs on battery power for as long as it can, getting its energy back by deceleration, by braking, by doing all the things that a battery-powered vehicle does. But when it starts to run out of power, the petrol engine cuts in and continues to charge the battery, and you drive on. Sounds good, but is it? Well, to drive, it's actually really, really good. It just feels like a normal petrol car making some normal petrol sounds, although the engine can sound a little droney at times when it's doing a bit of charging. The car itself, though, operates just like a normal 5-door hatchback with plenty of room. There's no batteries taking over a huge amount of spaces, and when you open a door, there isn't a great big step here to get into the car because of the batteries under the floor. So that's a benefit, right? There's other benefits too. If you want to go further, you just put more petrol in. There's a fly around me, sorry. You want to go further, you just put more petrol in. That's it. There's one fuel cap. It's right here. There's no plugging it in. There's no, just put petrol in the fuel cap. Sounds ideal, really, but realistically, this hybrid system is just a complicated version of what everyone else is doing hybrid anyway. It was running on batteries a bit further, and then a petrol engine would cut in and charge the batteries again. This is just a sort of a complex version of the same thing. But it does have some interesting little factors that I quite like. Firstly is the seating position. And I know there's a fella out there emptying out a Renault, but he's just after pulling up and ruining my shot. But you'll get used to that, right? So the seating position is nice and low because I'm quite tall, so I have plenty of headroom, and there's actually a glass roof over my head which will open when I start the car. But this is a lovely seating position. I don't feel up high like I do in some electric cars, like I'm sitting on top of all these batteries looking down. I feel like I'm sitting down in the car because really the batteries are actually quite small. They're under the back seat there somewhere, so there's nothing stopping the car getting lower and lower. Also, if I start it up here I've got everything. Digital dash, this Nissan mobility thing. The Nissan software is probably not the best in the entire world, but it's actually pretty good. Now, it's on Apple CarPlay and it's wireless for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I have a wireless charger down here. I have some buttons down along the side I can use for handbrakes and stuff. A couple of cup holders and a glove box in behind, and a big door pocket over here for big water bottles. So as a car, just to kind of drive around and enjoy, it's grand. It gets on with its job. It's actually a good Qashqai. I mean, it's good at what Qashqai always did. The same for the family in the back. They get 3 seats. You might fit a full-size third person in the middle, but you certainly do get an armrest in the back and 2 comfortable seats either side, electric mirrors, electric windows, all around, and a decent boot to go with it, with a 2-floor in it. It's like there's hardly any downside here, or is there? The downside that I see it is the price, really. SV does start at a very well kitted out €44,000. It's tons of safety equipment. Moving up to SV Premium is 47,400. SV Tech is 50,400, and this SVE that you see in this video is €53,400. Now that is a chunk of change, but I actually think it's good value given the current market and lineup and size of this vehicle. Listen, folks, if you want one of the best selections of used cars in Ireland right now, you need to visit kylemorecars.ie. You can have finance arranged within 24 hours on any of the hundreds of used cars that are in stock. Don't forget, it's kylemorecars.ie. So as you can hear, I just rumble away there on battery power. So the battery charges and discharges all the time. Like, this is a fairly constant affair in the car. Now, as the driver, I don't really notice this one or the other. So when I decelerate, like I'm going to go down a hill here, when I take my foot off the accelerator pedal, it begins to charge the little battery. So the little battery is constantly drawing power from somewhere to run the wheels, and that is the point of the battery. It's very dark in here today, so apologies if that white balance has gone wild on me here. It's actually really stormy in Ireland at the moment. We're getting lots of thunderstorms. Unusual sort of weather for this point in the summer, but it does happen. I remember when I was a kid, there was thunderstorms that would absolutely obliterate houses and stuff, so it does happen all the time. Not saying that climate change is not real, I'm just saying relax, everyone. Climate change is an unusual one. But speaking of climate, this is meant to be a lower CO2 vehicle than, you know, something else, but not necessarily like the Nissan Leaf, which I'm actually just driving out beside right now. That is a zero emissions vehicle, but this doesn't power from the grid. This powers from conventional fuels, normal wet fuel petrol. Now, of course, there is synthetic petrol becoming available, very expensive. Synthetic petrol is still petrol, it still combusts, it still puts out the same CO2, but how it's made means that there is no mining involved. There's no digging holes in the ground into the earth and trying to draw up oil from somewhere. It's synthetic. It's made in a laboratory, effectively, which sounds like a good idea, but essentially it's just swapping combustion for combustion. That's really all that's happening there. Now, so where does this fit, right? So you're looking at the small crossover system, and realistically, something like the ID4, which is from Volkswagen, fully electric, is a bigger car than this. It is. It's larger in dimensions and it's bigger inside, and there's more room in the cabin and stuff. But the Qashqai has a special place in people's hearts as something that started off a revolution in the crossover market. So what it did was essentially took a sort of Primera chassis, Megane chassis from Renault, and put a crossover car on top of that, creating what this is, which is a crossover vehicle, not an SUV by any standard. I would only count SUVs as being the bigger end of things. You know, it's difficult to say what is an SUV, really. We still haven't quantified that yet. The world of hatred seems to be currently on Land Rover. But, you know, that is an SUV, the Discovery and all that kind of stuff. This isn't. This is just an ordinary family car. And there's very few cars like this that actually do the job anyway well. Most of them kind of take the Toyota CHR, right? They sacrifice back seat space entirely in favour of some sort of boot. It's an empty nester vehicle, they call it, but in actual fact it's being sold as a small family vehicle when it's not really. It's very small, whereas the Qashqai is a bigger thing. Okay, let's look at the RAV4. RAV4 is a good hybrid system. It works pretty well. This is also a good hybrid system. It's two versions of the same thing, but just doing it a slightly different way. This relies, it's listening to me for some reason. This just does something different on every level.
Voice recognition.
I didn't ask you for voice recognition. I don't know why you did it, but anyway. Welcome to the wonderful world of tech in cars, where it all breaks down. Getting back to the actual car itself, the air conditioning system seems a little bit weird. It does this. It just goes to 2 bars on the fan and tries to cool the car down very, very, very slowly, and it's kind of annoying after a while, actually, because you sit there going, I'm roasting, can you turn that up a bit? So you have to take control of that instead of just leaving it on auto. I think that's fuel consumption thing that's going on there, rather than actually anything wrong with the air conditioning. The air is cold coming out of it, but just seems a bit odd. Speaking of electricity, they're putting in another huge electric interchange system is happening here. They're repairing bits of this one here. This is the north-south interchange area around Portlaoise. A lot of energy passes through this area here, and it does power a lot of cars now. So where are you with battery stuff? Because recently I have driven a hydrogen-powered vehicle, I've driven battery-powered vehicles, I've driven hybrids, I've driven these generator-type cars, this Nissan one. I actually like this Nissan one. I have a real soft spot for this car because it's just genuinely, honestly, a good car. That's it. It's just an honest Swiss Army knife of a thing that your family will get into, and you're not going to, you might not name it, or you might not love it or something, you know. It's like a bit like a sort of a family pet that's always there and just does what it's supposed to do, and you don't really think about it because it's just so good at what it does. Nobody cares. I know that sounds kind of weird, but that's genuinely it. It's just so good at what it does. Nobody even notices it doing its job, and I think that's the point of this Nissan Qashqai. Really works very well. It's worth your time looking at it. Has active cruise control. They call it something totally different, but active cruise control, what I could just call all of them, because that explains it easily. The car is able to drive along in the lane and keep the distance from other cars in front of it, and it keeps along in a nice area. It doesn't, no beeps or bongs, nothing that kind of bother you too much. It's just a good car, an honest car. The honest part wears down a little bit when you consider the price of the car. A little bit high for a Qashqai, for a mid-size family SUV, but it's still a bloody good car. I don't see any real downside to this. I'm sure the carbon neutral type people out there would go wild for it, thinking, well, it should be battery powered at this stage, but Nissan have been selling battery powered cars for longer than anyone else out there. Truly, honestly, they've been selling the Nissan Leaf for what, a dozen years now? Yes, there are now better cars than Nissan Leaf, and Nissan missed the boat. I don't think that's Nissan's employees' fault. I think that's Nissan management's fault, which is a different story entirely. And now they come up with something kind of interesting, actually. At least a little bit more interesting than some of the other Korean stuff that's out there right now, which is all a little bit boring. So instead of your PHEV, why not consider something you don't ever have to plug in at all, but still runs as a battery-powered vehicle? I'm on batteries now. Still cruising on the motorway here. Stuck behind a truck, mind you, but cruising on a motorway here at 100 and just coming to 100 kilometers an hour, and I am not running on petrol engine. I'm running on batteries. That'll upset some of you. Hey, listen, thank you very much for watching. I hope at this stage I've probably gone through surgery for my cancer. I don't know right now. Today I'm actually going to visit the doctors on Wednesday. So today is Monday, and I go on Wednesday for the final sort of prep as to what's going to happen in the surgery. So I don't even know myself. So by the time this comes out, maybe the surgery's over, or maybe not. But I'd love your support in the channel. The free way for everyone to support, of course, is just hit the subscribe button, share the video. They're all free things you can do which promote the video and make YouTube pay me, which is what I want you to do. What I'd love you to do, and you can be an eternal fan for this, is to Patreon the account. So go over to patreon.com, find me, there's a link in the description down below, and give us a $5 or a $10 a month or 20 quid a month or whatever you can put into it, and I'll keep producing videos as much as I possibly can. I'm going to start doing a diary behind the scenes for Patreon people on my cancer treatment and diagnosis. I'm sure some of you are very worried about yourselves and stuff, because I'm only 51 and already into the cancer level of things. So hopefully it won't go much further. Also, you can just plain send me cash through PayPal or something if you want to just send a single donation, not an ongoing thing. If you can't afford it, don't pay. It's quite all right. I'll figure something out along the way. I don't know what way I'm going to work in the future. I'm not sure what the results of the cancer surgery will bring to my ability to be able to make videos, present videos and be on camera and things. I don't know, because this is head and neck cancer, so I don't know what they're going to do surgery wise. But we're living 2022, 2023 now, you know, so it's the modern future of the world. Are we living in laser technology time? We should be able to do something here, but we'll see as time goes on. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've hit the subscribe button, and until the next time, I'll see you on the far side. Not available, visibility is impaired, it says on the screen there. That means I'm not going to steer the car for you no more. You may do it yourself, like, it's raining. I only steer when it's dry. Now.